The night was heavy with heat and noise, the kind of Manila evening where the air smelled of smoke, street food, and rain that never quite came. In the middle of the busy street, a boy no older than 12 stood barefoot on the cracked pavement, clutching a guitar that had seen better days. Its body was chipped, its strings mismatched, but it was his most precious possession, the only thing that made him feel less invisible. Each note he played seemed fragile, as if it might break at any moment, yet when he began to sing, something extraordinary happened. His voice rose above the clamor of jeepneys and market vendors, carrying a sweetness and power no one expected from a boy in tattered clothes. A few passers-by slowed down, some tossed coins into the open box at his feet, but most simply moved on, their eyes sliding past him as though he were just another shadow in the city. Still, he kept singing, pouring everything he had into every lyric, every note, because in those moments, he wasn't just a poor boy begging for spare change, he was a storyteller, a dreamer, someone who believed the world might one day listen. Hunger gnawed at his stomach, but it was the hunger in his heart, the desperate longing to be heard and to give his family hope, that drove him. He closed his eyes, lifted his voice, and let the song carry him somewhere far beyond the streets he called home. He never expected his life to change in an instant. One ordinary afternoon, as he sang on the same familiar corner, a stranger stopped and lingered longer than most. Instead of just dropping a coin, the man pulled out his phone and recorded the boy's trembling voice against the roar of traffic. The boy didn't think much of it, after all, countless people had passed by before. But within days, the video traveled far beyond those streets. Millions of strangers from different countries watched, shared, and wept at the sound of a child's voice breaking through hardship. Then, something unbelievable happened, an invitation arrived. For the first time in his life, the boy boarded an airplane, his old guitar strapped to his back like a fragile piece of home. When he stepped into the grand stage of a world-famous talent show, everything felt impossibly large, the ceiling lights like stars, the audience a sea of faces, the judges sitting like giants in front of him. His small hands shook, his chest tightened with fear, and for a moment he thought he might run. Then he remembered the words his mother had whispered to him back in their tiny room, "Sing with your heart, Anak. The world will listen." He held on to those words like a lifeline, took a trembling breath, and gripped the guitar as if it were his shield. In that single moment, he wasn't just a boy from the streets anymore, he was a boy standing on the edge of a dream. The stage was silent as the boy's fingers brushed the worn strings of his guitar. His voice at first was soft, almost uncertain, but with every passing note it grew stronger, steadier, filled with a haunting beauty that silenced even the restless crowd. The song was familiar, Hotel California, yet in his hands it was transformed into something raw and deeply human. Each lyric carried the weight of nights spent under flickering streetlights, of dreams whispered in the dark when no one was listening. The judges, who had seen countless performers before, leaned forward, captivated by the purity of a child's soul pouring out through music. One covered her mouth, eyes shimmering with tears, another clasped his hands as if afraid to move, afraid to break the fragile magic filling the room. The audience, thousands strong, held its breath, their phones forgotten, their cheers replaced by stillness. It was as if time itself had paused, giving space for this small boy to bare his heart. The final verse left his voice trembling, yet resolute, like someone refusing to be silenced by the world's indifference. When the last note faded, it did not vanish, it lingered, echoing inside every person present, touching something universal and tender. In that moment, he was no longer a poor boy from the streets of Manila. He was an artist, a messenger of hope, reminder that beauty can rise from the hardest places. And for a few minutes, the entire world listened. The final note faded into the silence, and for a heartbeat the boy thought he had failed. His chest rose and fell with quick, shallow breaths, his small hand still gripping the guitar as if it were the only thing keeping him upright. Then, suddenly, the hall erupted. The audience leapt to their feet, their cheers crashing like a wave against the stage. The boy blinked, stunned, unable to believe the sound was for him. One of the judges, tears streaming freely down her face, reached forward and slammed her hand on the golden buzzer. In an instant, the world around him exploded into light and sound. Golden confetti rained from above, swirling like falling stars, painting the air in brilliance. The boy dropped to his knees, overwhelmed, his guitar slipping gently from his arms as he pressed his face into his hands. He had never known such a moment, never known what it felt like to be celebrated, to be seen not for his poverty, but for his gift. The judges rushed to embrace him, their voices trembling with emotion as they told him how extraordinary he was. For the first time in his life, the boy felt the weight of dignity settle on his shoulders. He wasn't invisible anymore. He wasn't just a child singing for coins on a crowded street. He was someone whose voice had the power to move the world, and the world had just said yes. Backstage, the boy stood still, his small frame trembling under the weight of what had just happened. Gold confetti still clung to his hair and shirt, as if the moment refused to let go of him. Reporters, stagehands, and even the other contestants paused to smile at him, some with tears in their eyes. He whispered softly, almost to himself, "This is for my family, for every kid like me." His words carried more than gratitude, they carried a promise, a declaration that his voice was not only his own, but belonged to all those who had been unheard and unseen. Within hours, his performance spread across the world. Strangers who had never set foot in Manila felt the ache of his story and the fire of his dream. Messages poured in, not just of praise, but of kindness, offers to help, and prayers sent from faraway homes. The boy's life was no longer confined to cracked sidewalks and sleepless nights, he had stepped into a new beginning, one shaped by compassion as much as by talent. As he hugged his battered guitar close, he understood something profound: the world is full of open hearts, waiting to be moved, waiting to give. His journey was only starting, but it was already proof that hope can be born from hardship, and that a single act of generosity, the gift of being heard, can change everything. And as he walked out into the lights again, the boy was no longer just singing, he was carrying hope for millions.